What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Taylor with the Crafty Gents, and today we are at Chronicle Brewing Company in Bowmanville, Ontario, and we're joined by Jon Cowling.
Nick.
Take two, man.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you again.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, excellent.
It's good to be here again.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having us again, welcoming us in. It's perfect for us because we get to try more of your beer, which we love, so that's good.
What a ruse.
Yeah, it was our plan the whole time.
Yeah.
What beer do we have in front of us today?
Today, we have our flagship West Coast IPA, Flay IPA. Right now, very popular. You see a lot of sort of hazy New England, fruity, stone fruity, pineapple-y IPAs, and we make those as well. But we also have our Return to Basics, which is the West Coast IPA, sort of the more traditional piney, resiny IPA. That can be a little bit more malty than, say, fruity or sweet. Typically higher in bitterness instead of having the sugars or the late hop additions that sort of cloud that. Yeah, give it a try.
All right, let's try it out.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, so this beer's got a great sort of traditional piney, grapefruit hoppiness and bitterness. Clocks in mid-40 IBU, although we don't necessarily like to publicize our IBUs because we tend to look at beer from a really top-down perspective. Just delivering a beer that, tastes really great and is very approachable for all beer drinkers, all craft lovers. And then it's got a great sort of malty end with almost a caramelly sweetness, which really rounds out the bitterness of the hops in this one. So yeah, this is one of our favorites around here, and one reason that it's just about always around.
It's been around since the beginning too, right? It's
been around since the beginning, yeah. It's one that we've had a few iterations of. We've arrived at a place, we're extremely proud of it, very happy with it, and we think it's going the distance. So this is a staple here.
Nice. The bitterness is definitely more present than something you'd see in like a New England IPA.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So before they were referred to as West Coast IPAs, they were just kind of IPAs.
Yeah.
This variety definitely has more of that pronounced bitterness. A couple years ago in the craft beer scene before the New England IPAs, it really blown up. IPAs were almost synonymous with just like, what's the most bitter beer a brewery can make? And sometimes you still see that with West Coast variety IPAs, where it almost appears to be like a bitterness or a hop competition, right? Mm-hmm. I kind of relate it to, say, spicy food. Like, I love spicy food, but you always see suicide wings on a menu.
Getting crazy with spice.
And you think, think like, who's ordering these suicide wings? No doubt people like it. Mm-hmm. There's a place for it. But then part of you wonders, is this just, insanity for the sake of insanity?
Right. One thing I mentioned to you just before we started was the color of this beer. It's a little darker than what you would not traditionally see, but I'm used to like these big golden, like almost yellow beer colors, and this is a little bit darker.
So again, that sort of goes to the categorization of IPAs, where the New England IPAs, very popular right now, sometimes referred to as the haze craze, which are these big, or they're referred to as being juicy. They're these big, bright IPAs. They almost look like freshly squeezed orange juice, something like that, right? And they have certainly all that terrific fruity aroma with it. The West Coast IPAs, you can expect to have more of a medium body, certainly more of an amber color. This IPA in particular is made with an amber malt, which lends a lot of the great sweetness and color to the beer as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys have been open for just over a year now, right?
13 months, something like that.
13 months. So we're right on time. When you look back at that first year, how would you describe it in terms of being a new place to go?
It was amazing. Over the last 13 months or so that we've been open, we've produced I would say just over 50 unique beers. So, you know, we had weeks where we're coming out with multiple brand new beers a week. We've established a really nice repertoire of maybe 7 or 8 core brands that we sort of have in circulating production, like the Flay, for instance. We have a New England IPA, a blonde, a lager, a sour, a stout, and of course some others. And then apart from that, being a small scale brewery, you know, we have the freedom to get really creative with some ingredients, try a lot of different things. One of the things that we love are Kettle Sours. We make a lot of Kettle Sours. We've received really great reception from the public about them, so we intend to keep making them. We make them with all different kinds of fruit, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, we have our flagship beers that are interesting and awesome in their own right, and then we do a lot of creative one-offs, you know, small batch beers that drive people out here, as well as casks, things like that.
Right. So for people that don't know, what is Chronicle and like that logo that you guys have? Like we're looking at it right now. It's so simple when you look at it, but it is like there's a story behind it or a meaning behind it, right?
Right, absolutely. So that logo is a 20-sided die.
Right.
It's a most commonly rolled die in RPGs, tabletop RPGs, like Dungeons and Dragons, for instance. And the three of us, big Dungeons and Dragons nerds. The Mind Flayer actually is a famed monster from Dungeons and Dragons.
So it's perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. It actually consumes your intellect, so it's really fitting.
But one of the ways you show your personality is through like the labeling that you guys do and all these like childhood pop culture references. Yeah. How do you come up with new ones that are so great all the time?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of really funny sort of referential labels and naming schemes for the beer. And, you know, obviously we're in it to make craft beer. We're 3 beer nerds and just nerds in general. So the number one thing for us is quality of product, right? Like we care so much more about how the beer's presented, what's inside the can than the dressing.
Right.
But the gravy on top of all of that is that, you know, the public appeals to marketing. Yeah. So one of the fun things about making a great beer is you also get to market it. And since we have such an affection for all this pop culture referential nerdy stuff, we may as well embrace it with our branding. So how do we come up with it? You know, usually it's a very informal round table sort of talk around the bright tanks or the canning unit, and we just, you know, shoot the shit and say, okay, what about this one? What's it got in it? What's it like? What franchises do we love have we not touched on yet?
Right. Has there ever been times where like something doesn't turn out the way you'd hoped, and like how do you handle that? How do you manage that?
Absolutely. So you know, beer, especially when you're trying something for the first time, maybe a fruit addition would be a good example, and you have a certain expectation of how a fruit is going to perform in your beer, and then when you get to the final product, you've got all this beer, you don't necessarily want to toss it, and if it's good enough, it may not be what you expected, but if it's good enough, and by good enough, we actually have a very rigorous standard of what we will give out to the public. Right. You know, there have been instances where we've scrapped entire batches of beer because although we could package them, they may be passable, you know, our heart isn't into the final product. If we're not proud of it, we're not going to serve it, certainly. Right. But there are instances where you get a chance to make a little bit of lemonade. You have a beer, you had an expectation, and you get something that surprises you. It may even be, you know, to the benefit of the beer. An example of that is our Dang It Bobby. Dang It Bobby was a great lagered ale with a hilarious King of the Hill.
A great reference,
label. But it was a lagered ale that was made with kiwi. We put a ton of kiwi into this beer, late edition kiwi. And when we finally got to the end of it all, it was an awesome beer, but the kiwi wasn't coming out as much as we liked. So we get creative, right? We picked a really beautiful hop, Azaka, which has sort of a kiwi-ish stone fruit aromatic quality that really blends those sort of flavors and pronounces them. And we did a really heavy late dry hop with it, you know, this awesome hop. And what we came out with was a better beer than we anticipated.
Oh, nice.
And it was greatly received by the public. So, you know, and that's kind of why we named it Dang It Bobby, because it was a bit of a happy accident.
Yeah.
So in beer, there's always surprises, right? It's like anything. When you're trying to be creative, when you're doing creative endeavors, sometimes you think you're on point and things don't turn out exactly the way you thought they were going to, right? At the end of the day. And it's what you can do with those pieces. Whether sometimes, is it so bad you need to scrap it? Sometimes you can make something really wonderful, or even better than you anticipated out of it.
Right.
So
that's sweet. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your biggest events that you guys have, right?
Yeah.
Video game tournaments.
We love video games, obviously. So we have two, main video game tournaments, and those are our Smash Bros tournaments and our Mario Kart tournaments.
Right.
So we recently upgraded to a Nintendo Switch with a whole slew of Pro controllers. So our Mario Kart tournaments are coming into the 21st century, and so are Smash Bros.
Even with those, it's like the names are awesome, like Fungal in the Jungle and Hell in a Shell.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah, that's right. We just did $1 Million DDD.
Yeah.
And others. So
that's great.
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and those seem to be like a staple here for sure.
Yes.
And it seems like, and you have that company that comes in, who is it, that does a 24-hour gaming stream?
Yeah, the Invictus Stream. Check them out on YouTube at the Invictus Stream. They're a bunch of RPGers. They live stream RPGs, D&D and the like, every Wednesday, and we have a seasonal RPG night with them where they come out. They're like professional DMs, so they run games for the public,
right?
Expertly, and it's free to the public. You guys can come out, one night, basically a season, and join us and try some beer and have a lot of fun.
Sweet. That sounds awesome. Is there anything else, like when you look at the future, like you said earlier, you guys are pretty young. Is there anything else that you're looking to do in the future, whether it be like beer, events? You mentioned blowing that wall out or adding more space, but is there anything that you're not doing now that you're excited to get into?
One big thing that's coming up with the expansion of the tap room, if I can talk out of school a little bit, is we're looking at starting a barreling program, which is really exciting.
That's great.
We're going to be taking over more production space in the back of this building, and we're looking at implementing a barreling program there, and also maybe making it a co-event space as well.
Oh, sweet. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like wine or bourbon or whiskey barrels or all the like?
We'll have a little bit of everything. Right now we've got a couple 4-year Jim Beam barrels that are aging with a Baltic Porter and a Russian Imperial Stout. Got put in there, I believe, last October, so they're due to come out anytime. And we're going to be looking at acquiring a lot of probably wine barrels to continue our line of sours and offer some of those great funky barreled sours as well as our, strong kettle sour lineup.
Well, where can people find you guys? You mentioned that you sell beer from the brewery, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But where? Do you have licensees that you can pick up?
Yeah, we've got tons of licensees. So we are in the Durham region area. Most of our licensees are local. There's a few places you can find us in the city if you're Toronto bound. One good place to look is always board game cafes, gaming lounges, things like that. But the best place to come and try the freshest Chronicle, same day package is the brewery, of course.
Right.
We're at 422 Lake Road in Bowmanville, Ontario. We aims to be here for a while, so come down. Yeah, we've got 10 taps. We're going to be putting 10 more in. We like to keep 10 plus beers in the fridge at all times.
Which is insane. That's the craziest thing ever.
Come get a flight, bring your dog, and enjoy yourself.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having us, man.
No problem, Nick.
I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be back, but not because of why we're back again.
Yeah.